Well, it's Sunday. It's the fall. And while this Sunday in the fall doesn't feel like anything we've ever felt before in this century, what absolutely feels unmistakably similar to every other year we felt in the last 20 years is the Dallas Cowboys came close and they kicked us in the crotch with a 38-31 loss, this time to the Seattle Seahawks up in the great Northwest. I am Fort Worth Star-Telegram sports columnist Mac Engel. I'm not in Seattle. I didn't make the trip. But that good-looking man on the other side of this camera in this shot is Mr. Clarence E. Hill Jr., and he is in the great Northwest with the Dallas Cowboys today, dropped to 1-2 under Mike McCarthy. Clarence, you were there today in front of no fans. You were one of the precious few that was allowed in Seattle to watch the Cowboys lose yet again. Tell me, my good sir, while we should feel optimistic this time, it's going to be different.
Well, again, I predicted before the season that the Cowboys would lose to the Rams and the Seahawks, but yet still win the division, somehow finish 10-6 or 11-5. That's still on the table, and that's before we knew that they were going to have to deal with a bunch of injuries to the offensive line. But this Big 12 way they're playing, the shootouts, last-minute comebacks, all of this stuff, I don't know if my heart, my head, my fingers can take this every week because it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a crapshoot every week with this Cowboys team because the defense really can't stop anybody. And we do expect the highest scoring players in offense. The question is, can they stop anybody on defense?
No. Now, let's go back. Week 1, they played the LA Rams in Los Angeles. They lose 20-17. Play calling a little suspect there in the fourth quarter. I was pretty critical of Melatonin Mike, Mr. Gambler. Oh, the analytics say go for it. Week 2, the only reason they beat Atlanta is a absolute, utter miracle in the fact that they recovered an onside kick. Now they're in Seattle. They shoot themselves in the foot.
Nearly another miracle, nearly close.
Near miracle. But this time, Dak Prescott is great. He was very good in the win against Atlanta last Sunday. But, Clarence, if anybody said that there's a difference between Dak Prescott and the upper-tier quarterbacks of the NFL, this was it. Dak was really good today. Russell Wilson was perfect. I don't know if anybody could have beaten Russell Wilson today or in the last 2 weeks. He has been outstanding. Yes, sir. You in the back. Yes.
Can I raise my hand? I mean,
yes, you in the back. Go ahead.
To put this loss on Dak and the difference between Dak and Russell Wilson is not watching the game at all. It's not watching the game. Russell Wilson, let me finish. You made your point. Russell Wilson was great. He was amazing. 5 touchdown passes again. He has 14 touchdowns versus 3 games, more than any quarterback in NFL history, more than Patrick Mahomes. No one paid man, and no one's done it. He was great. Tell me how wide open those receivers were. Tell me the degree of difficulty on those touchdown throws compared to Dak in the tight coverage to some of the miracle catches these guys had to make. I mean, the Cowboys defense was a factor in Russell Wilson being Russell Wilson. I mean, can they get close? Can they cover? The guys have to just be wide open, wait for the ball. I mean, Russell Wilson's great, but those were some throws, some touchdowns that me and you could have made.
Oh, some of those throws that he had to T.J. Lockett, the first touchdown throw to T.J. Lockett, I don't know what Xavier Woods was doing. The first quarter was a disaster again, and I don't know if I really buy the idea. If a team has a slow start, it's an indictment on coaching. But people that I trust who played in the league all said the same thing to me, which is if you come out that bad, that's an indictment on preparation. And for 2 consecutive weeks, the Cowboys' first quarters have been disastrous. Like what happened today in Seattle was a train wreck. And I get it. If the guy's a rookie, I get it. You know, the screw-ups are going to happen. But we're seeing mistakes by Xavier Woods, Tony Pollard, their kickoff return man, doing things like, what are you doing, you moron? Like, what are you doing? And yeah, you're right. That did play into Russell Wilson's success. TJ Lockett was running wide open. And did they not
It would have been over early if DJ Metcalf doesn't Cadillac a touchdown. I mean, and he was wide open. Too many times, Seattle receivers were running wide open. The degree of difficulty for Russell Wilson certainly was not the same for Dak Prescott. And again, Dak Prescott owned his mistakes. He threw an interception. He had a fumble. Of course, the offensive line was horrible. That led to scores, and then he threw one up at the end on a desperation play. But you got 2 missed PATs. Let's talk about the special team. You know, John Fossil, his hand-picked kicker, Greg Zuerlein, was supposed to come in here and be great. He has been hit or miss. Certainly made the big kick last week, an onside kick, but to miss 2 extra points, and then the miscues on special teams. Certainly, you talk about Tony Pollard's mistake. Also, another mistake on punt return, penalties. I mean, the special teams have also been a disaster for this team. The Cowboys in that decadent offense never got a short field. They had to drive the long way every time. They got nothing handed to them by the Seattle or that Cowboys team. There's nothing there. They always had to do it the long way. You know, certainly they came back. It wasn't good enough. They made some mistakes at the end. But the problems on this team lie with that defense and still lie with special teams. Again, still. You got the best.
This is the same stuff we've seen for 10 years. It's not like any of this is new. The only difference is some of the names changed on the back of the jerseys, and now the different guys on the sideline calling plays, whatever you want to call them. That's the only difference. Everything else, down, it's the same thing. But you talked about this Cowboys secondary. Wait a minute. You talked about the Cowboys secondary, right? That was a major weakness coming into this season, even under the best of circumstances. You got starters out now. You got guys off the street playing significant time, right? Brandon Carr was a last-minute pickup. Is there any chance at all? They're going to go get Earl Thomas?
I know you were talking about. Go get her. Listen, Earl has paid his penance. We wanted Earl to pay penance. We want to get a pound of flesh from Earl for what he did in Baltimore, for what he did all season. He has paid his penance. There's no reason Earl Thomas should not be in this league. No reason why Earl Thomas should not be on the Cowboys. To think he's not better than Darian Thompson and what the Cowboys are doing at safety, that's silly. That's just silly talk. Certainly, he's not the player he used to be, but he's better than what the Cowboys are running out there at safety, and it's costing them games, and it's going to cost them bigger games down the road if they don't improve the safety position.
Clarence, real quick, I want to make sure everybody watching this knows, where did you go to college?
I went to Texas, of course.
Okay. Where did Earl Thomas go to college?
He went to Texas.
Okay.
And so did Michael Dixon. Michael Dixon, the punter that was the difference maker today from Seattle. Michael Dixon was that boy.
Hey, there's the guy who got Tom Herman an extension, the greatest punter in the history of the University of Texas. You know what I'm talking about? Look right there. Is there any reason, Clarence?
And he did Alamo Bowl.
That's right. Is there any reason right now why Earl Thomas isn't a Dallas Cowboy? What is that stumbling block? Is it just Mike McCarthy, or is it money?
No, I don't think it's money. I don't think Earl's at this point is going to be complaining about the money, asking for a lot of money. It's the Cowboys in their so-called chemistry, and again, how Earl departed Baltimore and all that other stuff that plays a role. Do you want to bring that into this locker room? You know, when you think you have good chemistry, you think you have a good team, but right now, I mean, the Cowboys. Listen, we're talking about a Cowboys team that took a chance on Greg Hardy. Okay. We're talking about Cowboys team who don't have a problem bringing guys in here with questionable stuff in their past, but yet we're going to draw the line with Earl Thomas? We're going to draw the line with Earl Thomas when you need Earl Thomas? Come on, man. Stop it.
Okay. Speaking of drawing the line, they didn't draw a line on Aldon Smith.
No.
If there is an early front runner for 2020's NFL Comeback Player of the Year, it's got to be Aldon Smith. Clarence, does Aldon Smith have anybody helping him out right now? Because right now he looks to be the only playmaker on that defensive line.
No, there's no question. He's been the best player on the line all season. You got all this. DeMarcus Lawrence does not have a sack. Okay, DeMarcus Lawrence has 5 sacks since the start of last season. Since the start of 2019, 5 sacks. He has no sacks this year. That's since he's been paid, he has no sack. Listen, Griffin, who came here from Minnesota, he has 1 sack. He changed his stance from the 2-point stance to the 3-point stance, had his hand on the ground. He doesn't have any sack. Tyron Crawford, no sack. They did get 1 from Antoine Woods today, but again, in the defense, after a bad start, after giving up the stuff, played okay in the 3rd and 4th quarters to give Cowboys a chance to get back in the game. But again, once the Cowboys took the lead and it mattered most, there were wide open receivers again, and the defense gave it up.
You know, we talk about injuries to the secondary, but Clarence, for a good 3 to 5 years there, the identity of this franchise was that offensive line. You knew what you had in Pro Bowl starters, all-pro players. The offensive line I saw out there today looked nothing like that group that had been so good really since 2014. Now, that's a very long run for any NFL franchise. Guys get hurt, guys retire. We saw Travis Frederick retire. He's gone. Joe Looney comes in. He does a nice job, but he gets hurt. Now they got to move him to guard, and they're constantly shuffling guys around. Tyron Smith misses his 2nd consecutive game with a neck injury, and now they've got to move Zach Martin, an all-pro guard and future Hall of Famer, to right tackle in an emergency situation because nothing they were doing worked on Sunday. That's how bad those guys were. Is this going to get any better anytime soon? And is Zach Martin now a fixture at right tackle for the future?
You know, and there's 2 ways of looking at that, because once they moved Zach Martin to right tackle, that settled the line, and they were able to come back. Remember, they offensive line, and they did make plays in the 3rd quarter to come back, consecutive scoring drives to actually take the lead with Zach Martin at guard. John Looney moved from center to right guard, and Tyler Biadasz, the rookie center, moving into the center's position because they benched Terrence Steele, undrafted free agent from Texas Tech. He's been awful. You know, it was so much. It's funny because it was such a great news story that he started, the undrafted free agent started because of the injury to La'el Collins, but he's not been good. He just started, but he's not been good. They finally moved him out. But going forward, La'el Collins was supposed to be out at least 3 games on injury reserve. This is the 3rd game. Mark McCarthy will not commit last week to say that he was going to be ready to go for this week's game against the Browns, but there's the hope that he can come back. Again, Tyron Smith traveled, so that tells you he's not too bad, because if your neck's so bad, you're not going to make this 4 or 5 hour plane trip with a bad neck, okay? So maybe you're close to coming back. Maybe those 2 guys certainly will be back next week, if not the following week. So it shouldn't be too long. But again, if they're out again, expect how they ended the game at tackle to be how they start the game next week with Zach Martin being a right tackle. Again, here's the guy who already has a Hall of Fame resume. Now he's like Larry Allen in the sense that you're so good at guard, but we actually now move you out of tackle in emergency situations, and you show up and hold up well. That only adds to your Hall of Fame resume.
Clarence, we saw a big game today from Cedric Wilson. This guy wasn't necessarily a high pick, but we saw Dak Prescott spray the ball around to anybody who was open. Kind of surprised you didn't have a couple of catches for 20 or 30 yards. I know you got a knee problem.
I got good hands.
And I'm sure you're ready. But other than Cedric Wilson, who are the young players? And I know he's not your classic rookie guy. CeeDee Lamb has been up and downish. He had a terrible fiasco on a punt return today. I don't know what he was thinking on that return. Who else from young players? I'm talking a first-year guy or rookie that you said there's somebody who offers hope.
You got to go back to the secondary and Trayvon Diggs, and there are times this season he's been beat like a drum. He was beat like a drum today, but he never stops competing. And that was the example of him when he came back with DK Metcalf was Cadillac on the touchdown, and basically he did the Leon let and knocked the ball to the end zone. The game would have been over in the 2nd quarter if not. That game would have been over long before now. But he did that, and then you saw him late in the game. He was really covering DK well and coming up with some pass deflection. So he gives you hope, okay, because he competes. He doesn't, he doesn't get down in the dopper to give a big play. He continues to compete. If you look at their secondary, he's the guy on that defense. He's the guy to say, we got something we can work with. We need to get him some help. We need to get a pass rush that can really get to the quarterback so they won't be covering all day. But outside of that, I mean, it's tough. But, CD wasn't bad today, but he did have some questionable decisions on running with the ball. But that's the great thing about this offense, because you have so many weapons, okay? You have so many guys, receivers that can make plays. You had Amari, you got Michael Gallup, who had a huge game, his first 100-yard game of his career. Cedric Wilson, his first 100-yard game of his career, I think first 2 touchdowns of his career, and they were darts from Dak, dimes from Dak, and hit him in stride. He ran to the end zone and showed his speed. The disappointment, let's talk about this. Zeke and Tony Pollard. Now, if Zeke's not going, we thought you were going to get something from Tony Pollard, and Tony Pollard has not been the weapon everybody hoped he would be. And certainly we go back to that huge miscue on the kickoff when he basically muffed the ball and downed it at the 1, which really set up the Cowboys to get a safety early in the game and really put them in a hole.
Clarence, you and I are around this team a lot. You've been around it more than I have, but I got to tell you, nothing really feels or certainly looks that much different. Maybe a little bit, but not that much with the Cowboys under Mike McCarthy and Jason Garrett. You're talking about they gave up on the run. We saw Jason Garrett. That's a standard of the NFL. That if you're down by 10 points or so, you're pretty much white flagging the run, depending on a few different circumstances. But for the most part, the Cowboys couldn't block today. Ezekiel Elliott went nowhere other than one carry.
And he had a couple of drops. He didn't really have it. I don't know what was wrong. Zeke did not have it.
He was bad. But my point is, and you speak to this, Clarence, I don't see the Dallas Cowboys in 2020 under Mike McCarthy, right? It's really a hell of a lot different than the Cowboys in 2011, 2019 under Jason Garrett. To me, they look like exactly the same. In that game we've seen today in week 1 against the Rams, we've seen that 1,000 times. Change coaches, great. Change uniforms, great. Score remains the same. Agree.
That's the problem, because you made the coaching change. You wanted a veteran staff. You wanted an experienced staff. The coaching box was supposed to be a difference maker for you. It's not supposed to be a liability. We talked about John Fossil in the special teams. They have not been the boost that you thought you were going to get with special teams, because it's not been good. And certainly a sloppy team, mistake-prone team, mental error team, that's a reflection on the coaching staff. That's a reflection on preparation. So that goes right to Mike McCarthy. And I don't know that you can say that Jason Garrett's team were unprepared. He got criticized for not making adjustments. And doing things like that. I don't think you saw them get them being unprepared and make mental mistakes like this team has made the first 2 weeks. At this point, you can't continue to blame it on no training camp and no off season and all this other stuff. They did some things. I mean, because that's the situation with everybody. The bottom line is the Cowboys have been sloppy. They have not been prepared. They made tons of mental mistakes and miscues, and that's a reflection on the coaching staff.
Clarence, we've got 2 more things, and we'll get out of here, and you can leave Seattle. Is the NFC East bad enough? I swear to God, we have had this conversation less than 50 times.
Yes.
Is the NFC bad enough again that it's going to keep the Cowboys in the race for a division championship at 6-10?
Listen, Linda. Listen. Have you watched the NFC East? Have you watched any other games? And that's the problem, is we are in Dallas and we get caught up in the Cowboys game and you get frustrated by what you're seeing. But have you seen the jump that is on display in Philadelphia? They got a tie. Okay. Have you seen the Giants lose to a JV team with San Francisco and they're now without the best player? Have you seen the Redskins? I mean, yeah, the Cowboys, and that's been the whole
Hey, Washington football team, sir.
Huh? Division is trash.
I said Washington football team, sir. It's a different time. Thank you.
I'm sorry. The Washington football team.
So, my hope has been, since the NFL expanded the playoffs and everything, is that eventually there would be a division winner with 6 wins. I know they've had some division winners that go 7-9, but that's boring. Anybody can do that. I want the Cowboys to win the NFC East at 6-10, and then go win on the Super Bowl. So fingers crossed it's going to happen. Last thing, Clarence, I'll let you go. Well, last thing, I'm going to let you go. Dallas Cowboys on Sunday host my good friend Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns. The Browns have actually looked better than they have in, well, really about the last 50 years. They beat Washington today. They beat a pretty average to bad Cincinnati team. I'm not really sure what to make of Baker yet. They've had so many coaching changes and so many changes that I think to judge any quarterback in that situation just yet is a little premature, but I think this is sort of a show me year for Baker, but they've looked better. Pardon?
We're judging already.
Yeah, well, I'm trying not to. But, Clarence, the Cowboys are 1-2. Are they going to beat Cleveland?
They have to beat Cleveland. Yes, they're going to beat
Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Are they going to beat Cleveland?
It's the Browns. It's going to be a Big 12 game. I said that from the beginning. It's going to be a shootout. They're going to beat the Browns. This is the beginning of 3 straight home games for the Cowboys. A chance for the Cowboys to get well and get on the road. Start with the Browns. They play the awful Giants. But the true test is those Arizona Cardinals. And that that quarterback coming here on Monday night before they go to play at the Redskins. So again, as much as we talk about how bad they've been, they started 1-2. You got the Browns, you got the Giants, you got the Cardinals. You get a win from the Cardinals, and then if you get that trifecta, you get a chance to get well on a real 4-game winning streak at the awful Washington football team. And then everybody said, ooh, look at here. Look what we have here. Look how great this staff is. Pay Dak. That's the formula, man. That's the formula, man. Get out the doldrums, man. It's right there in front of you. I said before the season they would lose 2 of their first 3, then get on the roll because of this awful schedule they have in October. Well, it's right here.
Yeah, but I don't think when that awful schedule came out, we knew Kyler Murray was going to be this good.
But we knew these
other. I'm telling you right now, we have done this 1,000 times. Oh, I got a bunch of home games coming up. This is where they're going to get rich. This is where they're going to get paid. Everybody's going to get happy. We're going to get free beer. They're going to go on a roll, and they never, ever do.
Free beer?
So
free crown? Can we get free crown? No, that's what I want.
Fine, that's fine. If they do it this time, I'll give you a body of free. I tell you what, if the Cowboys win 3 in a row, if they sweep this homestand and go 3 in a row, I will get you a bottle of Crown.
A liter handle.
You'll get a bottle. I'll decide what size. I got to look at the price.
The handle.
Fine. Well, eat well in Seattle. Have some raw oysters for me. Have a safe trip back. And we'll see you next week when the Dallas Cowboys circle the wagons and kick the crap out of the Browns by the final score of 89-85.
The Browns.
Gotcha. See you later.